Right, let's talk about the Supreme Court, the 9 justices in robes who decide the law of the land. We picture them as careful, methodical, and transparent, issuing lengthy opinions after months of debate. That's the merits docket, the main event. But there's another far less visible side, the shadow docket. The shadow docket sounds like a secret lair for supervillains, and honestly, it's not far off. It's where the court makes emergency decisions. No public arguments, no detailed opinions, often just a single, unsigned paragraph. Originally, it was for urgent procedural matters, like halting an execution at the last minute, but lately, it's being used for huge controversial issues: gun rights, immigration, presidential power without the usual transparency. Gun rights, immigration, presidential power. Imagine the normal process as a 5-course meal. The shadow docket is a food cannon, messy, confusing, and over in seconds. This shift is fundamentally changing how justice is delivered, and it's happening mostly out of public view. Why should you care? Because these decisions affect your daily life and they're being made with little explanation or accountability. It's like your boss changing your job with a cryptic note and no explanation. The lack of transparency is staggering, leaving everyone from judges to citizens bewildered. So, how does this emergency conveyor belt of justice work? It's shockingly simple. Normally, cases climb through the courts, but if a lower court blocks a major policy, the government can ask the Supreme Court to step in, fast. No public hearings, just short written briefs, and a private vote. The result? An unsigned order, sometimes just a few sentences. For years, this was reserved for true emergencies. Now it's the main entrance for high-stakes, controversial cases. The explosion in shadow docket use is tied to nationwide injunctions. One judge can block a policy nationwide, so the administration runs to the Supreme Court. Since Trump's return in 2025, the court has ruled on 22 emergency applications from his administration, siding with him in 19, more than Bush and Obama combined. This creates a feedback loop. Lower courts block a policy, the administration sprints to the Supreme Court, and the court lets the policy go ahead. The process is being short-circuited, undermining lower courts and the slow, deliberative structure of the judicial system. It's like a referee awarding touchdowns to his favorite team after a quick glance. The shadow docket is now the fast lane for sweeping policy changes. The result? Less transparency, less accountability, and a system that's being rewired before our eyes. The stakes are enormous, and the pace is only accelerating. The emergency brake is now the gas pedal. Since Trump's return to the White House, the executive branch and Supreme Court have become remarkably aligned. The administration's strategy, sue us and see what happens, knowing the Supreme Court is likely to back them up. The court has become a reliable backstop for Trump's most controversial policies, using the shadow docket to override lower courts. Policies like banning transgender service members, mass firings of civil servants, and ethnic-based stops have all been greenlit by emergency orders. Each was initially blocked by lower courts as likely illegal or unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court stepped in, not to rule on the merits, but to say, let it happen for now. This pattern supercharges presidential power, turning fringe theories of executive authority into reality. The court recently refused to block an executive order ending birthright citizenship, allowing chaos while legal battles drag on. The result? A presidency that acts first and deals with consequences later, fundamentally shifting the balance of power. The shadow docket has become the administration's secret weapon. Now, let's talk about guns, because the shadow docket has turned the Second Amendment into a legal minefield. States have long passed gun control laws, but the Supreme Court's emergency orders are upending that process, often siding with gun rights advocates without a full hearing. After the 2020 Bruin decision, lower courts struggled to interpret the new standard. States like California and Illinois had their assault weapon bans upheld, until the Supreme Court blocked enforcement with a single order. Laws on the books for years can be nullified overnight, leaving states powerless and lawmakers hesitant to act. The court isn't explaining why these laws are unconstitutional, it's just stopping them, creating confusion and a chilling effect. Gun rights groups are emboldened to challenge every regulation, hoping for a quick win. The result? a patchwork of uncertainty, where gun laws can change overnight based on a one-sentence order. This isn't just legal theory, it has real consequences for public safety and state authority. The shadow docket is rewriting gun rights in silence. Beyond guns, the shadow docket's biggest impact is the radical expansion of presidential power. The court's conservative majority has consistently deferred to President Trump, letting him bypass normal checks and balances. The court has allowed the president to remove officials from independent agencies, turning them into White House extensions. While the main case on this is pending, the court has already let Trump fire members of the FTC, Consumer Product Safety Commission, and National Labor Relations Board. Justice Kagan warns this is fundamentally reshaping the separation of powers, transferring authority from Congress to the president. The president is becoming a chief everything officer, rewriting government rules through emergency orders. Monumental questions, like federalizing the National Guard or removing Federal Reserve members, are being decided with brief, unsigned orders. The shadow docket is letting the president win wars before the main battle even starts. Not everyone sees this as a constitutional crisis. Supporters argue the shadow docket is a necessary response to activist lower courts issuing nationwide injunctions. Justice Barrett says as long as executive orders are lawful, courts shouldn't block them mid-litigation. They claim the court is just managing the process, not picking winners, acting as a neutral referee. But dissenting justices like Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson see abuse major legal decisions made without full briefing or public debate. They warn this creates legal instability, as lower courts are left guessing the Supreme Court's reasoning. The dissenters argue the shadow docket is being used to make new law, not just manage cases. The court is citing its own emergency orders as precedent, creating a self-referential loop. Justice Kagan says this damages the court's legitimacy, making it look political, not impartial. It's a fundamental disagreement about the Supreme Court's role in democracy. This isn't just legal drama. The shadow docket's decisions have real, immediate effects on people's lives. When the court allows a policy to take effect, it can mean a transgender service member loses their job overnight, or a federal employee is suddenly fired. Gun control rulings mean assault weapons can be sold again, impacting public safety. Stricter immigration policies can separate families and deport asylum seekers to danger. The lack of explanation adds confusion and a sense of arbitrary power. When independent agencies are brought under political control, protections for consumers, the environment, and workers can vanish with a single order. The rules that keep your food safe or your workplace fair can be erased by presidential whim, rubber-stamped by the court. The biggest effect? Erosion of public trust in the courts. When monumental decisions are made in secret, the court looks less like a neutral arbiter and more like a political actor. That undermines the very idea of the rule of law. So, where do we go from here? The truth is, we're in uncharted territory. The shadow docket is now the new normal, with no sign of slowing down. As long as lower courts issue nationwide injunctions and the administration sees the Supreme Court as its trump card, this cycle will continue. The result is a state of legal limbo. Rights you thought were secure can vanish with a single unsigned order. The balance of power is tilting toward the executive, fundamentally reshaping American governance. Some propose reforms, requiring more detailed reasoning for emergency orders or limiting nationwide injunctions, but change will be a political battle. For now, the shadow docket operates at full speed, with dissenting justices sounding the alarm. This matters for everyone. Do we want laws made through open, deliberative process, or by secret, unexplained decisions? The shadow docket isn't just a procedural quirk, it's a choice about the future of American democracy. And right now, we're drifting further into the shadows. It's time to pay attention, before the lights go out.